Hey, Goddess. Welcome to our podcast. We are Wendy Lou and Angie Kay, two goddesses on a journey of awakening and embodiment together, traveling hand in hand through the trials and tribulations of this roller coaster ride we call spiritual awakening and ascension.
It was only a matter of time before we started our own podcast to share what we've learned along the way as energy practitioners and spiritual entrepreneurs.
Join us twice a month as we explore metaphysical topics, spiritual awakening, collective energy updates, spiritual entrepreneurship, the divine feminine and divine masculine, and all things goddess.
Our vision and mission is to provide a safe space to express the unspoken topics of awakening the divine feminine. Our desire is to heal the generations of shame, secrecy, and illusion that have shrouded the divine feminine teachings. So we hope you join us here on our podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Hey Goddess podcast. I am Wendy Lou and this is Angie Kay, and we are going to talk about DNA upgrades and what is going on in the cosmos and how it is all connected. And we've been talking about this at great length. Obviously, we talk quite often anyway because we're besties. And so we really was feeling this topic coming to the surface for a lot of people. The two of us, aligned as we are still coming out of kind of a huge and deep upgrade. And I just wanted to start by saying that, the cosmos is definitely mirroring what's going on. We've got four planets in retrograde right now, four big planets in retrograde. By big, I mean powerful, not necessarily the four biggest, but powerful. And Chiron is in retrograde as well, I think till March, if I remember correctly. And Chiron, all by itself in retrograde, is typically deep wounds coming. It's childhood wounding, right? He's the wounded healer, and the wounded healer is the child, right? It's when we stop growth at a certain age because we've experienced some trauma, and that creates the wounded healer. We don't want anybody to go through what we went through, but we've not fully healed that trauma yet. And so this is an unprecedented. Like I know you'll agree, Angie. Like I just feel like this time right now, there is nothing like it so far, and we are really coming into some deep healing. And so, yeah, so let's talk about this. And I think that a lot of people will resonate with perhaps really getting being put through the ringer this last month or so. And, that might not to scare anybody, but I do see that continuing into a little bit into 2026. But we're really going to start to see this breakup. And so I would say to everybody, grab your ascension buddy if you have one. Thank God I have one. Grab your ascension buddy and just really lean on each other right now, or if you have a group, right? And just really share what you're going through. That would be my advice right now, because I think that helps. And just, well, we're going to talk about all this, right? But just like sinking into this human experience. So where are you at with this right now, Angie?
Well, and we knew it was coming, is what's hilarious. And so I'm just thinking
Always.
back to before India. So just for some context for you all listening, we spent 2 weeks in India, and a few of those 2 weeks were spent traveling on planes for very long plane rides.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yes, we experienced it all, and we knew there was an upgrade coming. We knew India was a big upgrade for us. Both of us knew it was on our bucket list trajectory for spiritual growth, for something to bring through some codes, to crack something open. And we just knew. And we knew that the timing, we actually, while we were in Mount Shasta this last summer, planned our trip to India. Funnily enough, we were just sitting
Mm-hmm.
together like, yeah, it's time for us to go to India. It just, there was like a powerful energy to it for us and like a magnetic pull of something. So we planned it for around 11/11 is what's funny. So
Mm-hmm.
we planned
Not
it for November
intentionally.
11/11. Well, and 11/11 is traditionally such a huge date for both of us. So it was
Yeah.
planned not directly, like you're saying, intentionally, but it ended up planned around that date. So that's a powerful energy just in and of itself. So we knew there were upgrades coming. Okay. Now, a lot of us experience DNA upgrades all the time because we need to experience them. It's how we continue to evolve. It's how we shift and change out of old patterning and we receive new patterning. If you think of your DNA is everything that you are, so it's what how your physical body expresses. It's how everything expresses is through your DNA. And so it needs to rearrange itself for a new expression. So if you start telling yourself a new story about yourself, say you grew up in a family line of poverty and you're telling yourself a new story about abundance, your DNA has to rearrange itself for you to experience that. And in doing that, you'll experience various upgrades. And that's
Hmm.
not to scare you. They can be
Right.
very,
But you've
very
got to let
pleasant and
go.
simple.
Sure,
They
but
can
you've got
be
to let
very
go.
simple. Yes, you have to let
Yes.
go. There has to be a way to clear out old junk things that aren't serving you any longer. Maybe junk's not the right word because I know science has used junk DNA as something, but
Right.
that's
Which
the
it's
junk
so
DNA is
not. It's
actually
anything
needed,
but.
important.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that's
So I
what's
don't even want to
awakening.
use that term. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's old frameworks, let's say, right? Like old old frames for doing something that no longer serve, and so those have to be wiped out and new DNA comes online. I love the way Cryon talks about this. For anyone that has ever listened to Cryon, he'll say your DNA will check every single time it comes back around. It checks, is there a change? Is there a change? Is there a change? And if you've made a change, which starts with your thoughts, all of a sudden it'll say, there's a change. The change
Mm.
takes time, it takes evolution, right? But every time it circles back to check, change, change. As long
Hmm.
as it's getting the message to change, it will change. And so you will continue to go through upgrades, which is evolution of humanity. You can't stop this.
You
You're
can't
always going
avoid
to be
that. No.
asking for something better in your life because you're going to, all everyone, most people, if they're growing, and we can talk about the opposite of growing, right? But most people, if they're growing, are going to experience a time, a moment in their life, maybe even weekly, where they say, I could do this better. This could be done better. I'm going to say something different, right? And so as soon as you tell it to your mind, that change starts taking place, right? So
Yep.
this happens at the DNA
Reprogram.
level. So we knew an upgrade was coming. And all that to say, we knew it was coming. We didn't know how, we didn't know it was going to happen simultaneously together, but kind of that's how we roll, Wendy and I.
Hmm.
If you've been listening up on our podcast over the last year, we definitely roll with, okay, we're doing a similar thing at the same time. So we get home and you can tell what happened to you, but we both experienced a very similar virus. And I woke up, Wendy started talking about it the day before. She was having pain in her joints and
On the
I was
11th,
following.
interestingly. On the
Yeah, on
11th is
eleven
when it hit me.
eleven, I was
Yeah.
following you and responding to you online. And you thought it was some jet lag, and fair enough, that
Sure.
totally makes sense.
No.
I woke up in the middle, and I don't get as severe of jet lag as you, which we know. I don't experience it as much as other people for some reason. I don't know why. I'm just a lucky,
Just
less
right.
jet
Just
lag person.
embrace that.
A
Yeah.
lucky
Embrace
person that
that.
way.
Yeah.
So I woke up at 4 in the morning, collapsed on the floor because none of my joints or muscles were holding me
Yeah. I'm
up
not.
and they were
I'm
so
not laughing.
painful. And I texted
Yes.
you, you're laughing, but you're not laughing. I get it. I
No.
texted you, oh my gosh, I think it's viral, whatever you were experiencing. I don't think it's jet
Right.
lag.
And I really was
And
resistant to that. I'm like, no, I don't want it. Like, that was scary, right? And
yeah,
so I wanted it to just
right.
be jet lag, but we went through all these shifts and transitions with this thing
Hmm.
that it was like you just had to kind of surrender to it all.
Did. Yeah. So anyway, share your experience of the upgrade that we've been going
Yeah.
through.
So we got home on the 9th, from 40 plus hours of traveling straight through, right? And I got home to Iowa in the evening and I went to bed and I actually slept most of the night, which was great. And I got through the next day fabulous. Like I got up, I walked my dog, I felt pretty good. I went and bought groceries, which was ended up being a mistake. I bought all these groceries. And then the next day, about noon, 1 p.m., all of a sudden my whole body started to hurt. And I thought right away, okay, here we go. It's, the jet lag. And because I know because I've done a lot of international travel, is that it's day 2, 3, sometimes 4 when it really hits you. The first 24, 36, even 48 hours, sometimes you feel great. And then it'll kind of knock you down. And so I thought, okay, it's just jet lag. I'm going to go take a nap or whatever. Well, it proceeded to just get worse. And then it transitioned into like we were cycling in and out of high fevers. We had some burning skin situations. Like we had all these interesting symptoms that were just kind of indicative of, for me now that I'm out of it, right? I can look back and think, wow, that was a deep, deep purge. Like whatever was got, like every joint in our bodies hurt. And we're still kind of healing a lot of that because it was such a deep cleansing of whatever. And so, talking about it, it has to be this DNA upgrade going on. It has to be at least that deep, if not even deeper than the physical DNA. But it definitely was something that, like you said, we knew we were going to experience a big upgrade, but I personally was not expecting it to be so physical. And so it kind of, it knocked me a little bit sideways, and I processed a lot of anger around it because I feel like 2025 and even the last like 7, 8 years, I've had a lot of, and you have too, we've had a lot of physical body stuff, a lot of vessel stuff that has come through. And that is because, and we talk about this all the time, we have to process everything through these physical bodies. The whole point of this ascension is that we are stepping across the threshold with our bodies for the first time as a humanity. Like we've never done that before. We've always just, oh, well, it would be like an almost close to extinction event, and then we just start being reborn in the new energy, right? And we're not doing that this time. We literally are upgrading the bodies as well. And so Angie and I have experienced, that we have actually felt like we've been kind of at the forefront of a lot of this stuff and taken the brunt as well as many other people in our, Dolores Cannon might call it the wave, right? Whatever wave we're in, is we often feel like we're out in the front lines, right? And holding hands, Red Rover, right? With a bunch of other people who are in the same group that we're in that are experiencing this, and we're taking the brunt of it so that when the wave hits behind us, it's not as intense. And so, and whether that's true or not, it resonates with me that, okay, so this is our job, right? Like this feels like what we volunteered to come here to do is to take the brunt because we are strong enough to handle this. And so yeah, it was quite a physical experience that the symptoms are still sorting themselves out and working through, but 1,000% better, right, than like the worst day, I would say for sure.
Yeah. And I think people just were not understanding the level of upgrade we were in because
No,
people would say to me, "Oh, it sounds like you have deli belly or these things." And it's kind of like,
no,
I really can't explain the pain to someone. The fact that I can take acetaminophen or whatever and it doesn't touch. There was no touching it. It was like untouchable
yeah.
amounts of, joint pain and stiffness. And so yeah, we just kind of had to that we had each other, which was amazing. And for all
Oh my
of you
gosh,
listeners out
yeah.
there, I hope that you have an ascension buddy in this, spiritual awakening process because it makes everything so much better.
I can't imagine having gone through something like that and not having anybody else understand what it was like.
No, it would be
So,
terrible. And I think that the whole thing, like what you were saying about why have as and you and I have been really aligned in this some of these physical upgrade experiences we've gone through, right? Um, and it really has to do with like that phase of embodiment, right? Like there's an awakening phase that's very mental that a lot of people
hmm,
have been through, and it's just sort of like mentally processing all of the things that you believed were true but weren't true, and then realizing what the truth of your reality actually is, right? And it happens on the mental level. But then there's a level that comes in right after that, on the heels of that, that's the actual embodiment of the things that you learned. And so that's where the DNA shifts, right? So there's a shift in your DNA because there's a complete belief change. You have gone through your awakening on the mental level, and then that has to reflect into your physical reality. And so that's when the embodiment of source energy takes place. Now, everyone is made of source energy, but there's varying degrees of that. Like think of the miracles that say, like, Jesus could perform. And there's other examples like Buddha and people in history.
Right,
They
right,
were embodying huge amounts of source energy. Like even Jesus, one of his famous lines is, "I'm not doing this stuff. The Father within me is doing this stuff." He was
right.
saying, with the words that they had at the time, source energy is coming through me and it allows me to perform miracles. That's what source energy does. So when you were describing, like, we're bringing this through the physical body, right? We're bringing through source energy to the physical body so that we can exist at a higher frequency than we ever have before,
Mm,
right? We've been existing through many, many years of our civilization at a low, low frequency that, was very heavy on the physical body. And so now we feel so much, so many of us, right, that have gone through huge pieces of embodiment, we feel so much lighter all the time. We don't experience like physical pain on the daily. So when these upgrades come in, it's just like we were saying, Wendy, earlier, kablamo, because we
mm.
feel so good and we're so not used to what that feels like to be like to be having severe pain, because it's such a contrast from where we're at on the
Mm,
daily now, right? Where we were, all of us, prior to 20 what am I trying to say? Prior to 2012, the world was much more dense. And so we were all kind of in this like low grade sort of heavy body painful experience in a way, right?
right,
Like that was
yeah,
all way more normal. And so now so many of us have come out of that, are embodying quite a lot of source energy. And so we feel good a lot of the time.
yeah,
So
that's
this stuff
true.
feels so intense. These upgrades can feel so. If you've been experiencing this, of course, our disclaimer is always receive whatever, and I went to two doctor's appointments, by the way, during this process. Receive whatever medical support you need through
Yes,
your process. Now, you may not
absolutely.
ever be able to explain to a medical professional about what an upgrade is, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's still sometimes like whatever frequency is needed to assist you in the moment, that's the frequency that you need, right? Like I
Right,
received support and was awesome and so grateful for it. It doesn't matter. Everybody describes these things differently, but we are completely 100% supportive of everybody receiving whatever care they need. We're just explaining from the energetic perspective what
right.
happens and why it feels like, in a way, and you might even feel like you've been picked on. Like Wendy and I have even said that, like, I feel like we're being picked on, but it's
Like
just
we're
that
being
we
punished
feel
for
so
something.
good on the daily. So many of us
True.
feel so
Yeah,
good after learning, and for those of you out there that are resonating and haven't really learned how to manage your own energy or to do your own energy work, this would be a great time to step into that because you can feel so different in your physical body. We had a woman that was on a call at the Goddess Society just last week. We had a Thursday meeting, and she said people kept telling her, doctors and things, all her life, that she had this virus. And that's what kept, attacking her. And she was having like chronic fatigue symptoms and all this stuff, right? And she said it wasn't until she discovered energy and spirituality and started working with source energy that she was able to heal from the virus. And she was saying, yeah, I still get things like everybody does. I
right.
get
Yeah,
these upgrades or things, or I fight something, like it's important for our immune system to be challenged, right? So she still goes through normal things, but she doesn't have this like constant experience of this virus that was kind of constantly like in the background of her life. So she
right.
was able to heal that through energy and spirituality. So anyone that's listening that resonates of like, wow, I could do that. Yes, you can do that. It
Absolutely.
works.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes, and I would say too, even to piggyback on the what you were saying about it's all source energy coming through us, coming through these physical bodies, and it made me think of too, even when you learn energy healing, that's all you're doing. Like I remember when I was in my Reiki training, and I had this mindset of, well, the energy has to, I have to build up this energy within me, and I was really stressing about it. And then my teacher said, all you're doing is channeling source energy. You're not coming up with the energy on your own. You're not giving away any of your energy. You're literally becoming a conduit that just brings energy through for the client or for yourself, even. And so that was a huge aha for me on this whole journey. Like that's what we're doing. And we might call it Christ consciousness, bringing Christ consciousness through, which is more of a kind of grounded perspective of what's going on the planet right now. Is yes, we're bringing that Christ consciousness through because we're now learning to live more from our heart space, right? Versus more from a feminine, compassionate, and unconditional loving space versus that disconnected masculine where we've been for so long. But it's all about surrendering to that and to allow the source energy to do that. Because when we do come into really truly suffering, and I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong, right? Angie and I, we didn't do anything wrong with this recent upgrade. And there was definitely, physical pain and discomfort and for me, a lot of kind of anger around it that I had to process. But it's resistance, right? And I've always said, we used to say, oh, well, get rid of all resistance, get rid of all resistance. And then you come to realize when you get where Angie and I have gotten to, where we understand now that it's not about transcending the human experience. It's about holding on to that frequency and bringing it down into the human experience, that is what it's all about. And so resistance is natural because we have physical bodies. And so you surrender even to wherever you're resisting because it's going to clear it away regardless. I mean, this is all part of a much bigger plan. I always say it's way above our pay grade, right? I mean, we're up there, right? Like it's us. It's essentially just us. There's no one in charge but us. But in this human experience, we're really just supposed to surrender to it and to allow source to take us where we signed up to go initially, which is not constant pain and suffering. I promise you. It's not this life of being punished and tortured, like where we've maybe feel like we've been. It's definitely shifting from, I heard somebody say one time that, we're shifting from a reality where maybe we felt true joy, it was dotted in, right? Like we had this mediocre life and then joy would be dotted in. And we're shifting into a reality where we're going to be in that joy state, and then lower vibrations might dot in, but will essentially be in a much higher frequency overall. Instead of just, I used to say that, the first 42 years of my life, essentially I felt like I was flatlining my way through. It's like I managed and I was kind of comatose and zombie like, and I would feel a little bit of happiness, a little bit of sadness, but never an extreme of either one. And when I started this, like you were saying, 2012, that's really when this spiritual awakening exploded on the planet, right? And that's what's going on. And people who are still kind of asleep to that, I think, are not going to have that option much longer. When once we get into 2026 and into 2027, everyone is going to have to be aware of it. There's just no other way around it. But it's just been this huge collective awakening, and everybody's experiencing it different. Like we always say, there's however many souls are participating, is how many ways there are to ascend, to go through this evolutionary process. And so, yeah, so I don't remember where I started, but but we're and you were saying too, we're strengthening the human body right now. We're really putting it through the test to see if we can learn how to actually tune into our own bodies. And like you said too, neither one of us would ever judge anyone for going to a doctor because we do it. We would never say, no, don't go to the doctor. You can heal all of this through energy work. These things are here for a reason. And following your own intuition is huge. That's the point, is tuning into your own body and what does your body want. And, in the process, if you can also grow from that and know, okay, well, I know that awareness can maybe help me not have to depend so much on these heavier things, on these low vibrational things, like a lot of medicine or like, consistently. But when we go through things like we just went through, like I was definitely game for whatever, over the counter thing might help, or because it was hard. And so I do feel like we will never judge anybody for listening to their own intuition and taking something that helps. I would say if it helps, like people will think that I'm, in that space and I'm like, well, does it help you or does it hurt you? Oh, it helps. Then why would Why would why would it not be a good thing? Because there's so much of this journey is intention, right? And just mindset.
I think, and listening to your story, it sort of reminded me of where so many people were at before 2012. And that was, it was kind of like this, the way of life, and even coming from our DNA coding, right? Was like find a safe enough job or a safe enough marriage or whatever, right? Like, and just sort
Situation.
of like live the safest reality that you can find so that you're completely unscathed. You don't have to feel a lot. You don't have to experience like any hardships or anything,
Right.
and just sort of maintain that in a numb state. And that was like the gold standard
That
for
was the
like,
goal.
how do
Yeah.
you, right? Like get a job, the one you can have for 45 years, the good pension, and, really, like if you look at how different the world is now than, say, even 10 or 20 years, like even just going before 2012, right?
Right.
So I
13
guess
years
that was
ago.
more
That's
than
not
10
that
years
long
ago,
ago.
not that long ago. So if we just rewind before that and think of even how different the world is. I mean, I worked in an era where, and you probably too, I wore pantyhose to work.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
that sounds absurd. People don't even know what that is, right?
We don't feel old enough
No,
to be
it
admitting
was
that, but we did.
crazy, right? I wore pantyhose to work.
I
So
absolutely did.
that
Yeah.
sounds insane to people now because it sounds, why? Why was that even a
What are
thing?
pantyhose?
Like,
I have had girls say to
right,
me, "What are those?" Oh my gosh.
exactly. There was a certain dress code and people followed it. And there was a dress code for women and a dress code for men. And, all of that,
Right.
so
And
much of
even in
that
the
has fallen to the
military, we were
wayside.
required to wear the hose with
Yeah,
even with the
it's so
pants.
crazy.
Even with the
So crazy.
pants.
It's like, are you kidding me with this? So anyway, if you just think of how the workplaces have evolved, like everything has evolved so dramatically, like so fast, really, because people came from that like numb state to realizing, wow, we're in this human experience. And maybe if they didn't say it the way I'm going to say it, we want to be alive, right? Like we're spirit in the body. We're not just this robotic, keep everything safe and perfect and unscathed, because that's not even possible, right? Like
Not
that's like
anymore.
acting like you have
Right.
some sort of control over the whole thing and you just don't,
Yes.
right? And as soon as you could, like you said, surrender and just release the fact that you don't have control, even though on some level, like you said, way above our current pay grade as humans, we are creating the whole thing, right?
Right.
But at this level of the human experience, we're experiencing, right? We're experiencing the creation.
And that's the
So
point. Yeah.
that's the point. So then there was this shift in consciousness, which maybe people weren't even aware of it, into an embodiment phase, which was like we're actually living and we're living our lives in a way where we're actually allowing ourselves to experience, right? Where Wendy and I could come back from India now, like, okay, say this was 20 years ago, and we could say, oh my gosh, we are never getting on another international flight. Like, we could have died. Like, we don't even know what we had. That was terrible. No, we're saying, bring it. Like, we want to live our lives. Like, we're not letting anything stop us from living. But the tendency 20 or 30 or more years ago, right, 100 years
Right.
ago was, no, 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 that's not safe. Don't live your life in a reckless way, right?
Right.
But no, it's not the same now. We realize that life requires us to go through these types of things and to be able to feel and to be able to go through an experience and realize adversity makes us stronger on the other side, whatever adversity we're experiencing, and it's part of the experience.
Yeah, and if you think too, I think a lot of us, I think everybody has always had maybe onesie twosie people in their lives that they would watch that who actually did live, but we would watch them experience the highs and the lows. Like they would have immense joy and then they would have devastation. And so you immediately in our brains we'd go, well, nope, the joy is not worth the devastation. And so we would continue, like I said, the flatlining life. Like that was the gold. Oh, you've really hit the nail on the head if you can create this bubble around your life where you're never truly feeling really high joy or really low devastation, then you've done it. That's a success story as far as we were concerned. And like you said, there was huge shift in 2012, 2013. That's when I had my awakening. Like I was completely zombie until into 2013, the first half of 2013, and I just started to break apart at a very deep level. And like you said, I my first experience was the mental upgrades, right? The changing the way I spoke to myself and the realizing that things weren't the way I thought they were. And it can be very scary when you're going through that stage. But then you find other people. You find your vibe attracts your tribe. There's just no way around it. As long as you leave your, even if we don't have to leave our house anymore, we have the internet that does that for us, right? And so you do start to meet your people and then you get through. And like, I talk about a lot that I had to move through a very intense conspiracy theory phase in order to get to the spiritual part. And I still am in contact with a lot of the people from that time for me that also like realized, okay, you can't, this is not sustainable. And this is just more of low vibration and more of how can we be safe, right? There's something out there that's scary. How can we protect ourselves from it? And you have to let that go too and just embrace the spiritual journey. But a lot of people, like you said, do that mental part first, which I think is by design, obviously, like that
Mhm.
definitely needs to happen first because we need to really start to understand the physical body more. Before we can actually process all that stuff through these beautiful human vessels. And so, yeah, I mean, I even know somebody, obviously I won't say names, but I just recently found out that somebody I've known most of my life passed away. And this person, like we were talking about this before we hit record, this person chose, and this is no shade on anybody's choice of journey, but this person did not choose growth in their life. And they never left the situation that they were in since we were kids. And, just the other day, and I'm not saying that's why they passed away or anything, but it's like at some point the frequency becomes too much if you choose not to grow. And this is not to scare anybody because I don't think anybody listening to us is in that situation at all, but you may resonate with people in your life who are also experiencing that, and that's their choice. But it also serves us to see that we could choose that. We could have
Mhm.
chosen that if we wanted to. And to see it and to see it play out helps us, I think, to realize that yes, we really are going toward the reality where we get to actually experience all these things. And we talked about, we creating that numb, we've created an entirely numb society and that was not sustainable. So here we are breaking that apart now. And so experiencing the good stuff, like you said, we feel good so much of the time. Well, now we get to experience the flip side of that coin, which is much more kind of breaking apart and feels low vibe, right, to us because we've avoided all of it for so long. And so I often say too, the point of the one of the main points of this whole journey is to realize that every emotion, every human experience is beautiful and gets us to the next place. We don't have one destination, we have a million. There's a destination every second, right? That we're moving through and getting to a point where you're like, oh, okay, I get it that, I may feel I'm experiencing a loss if I can really embody this human experience and understand that this is beautiful and this is getting me to where I need to go and that there is joy also going to come because the universe is always balancing itself, right? That's karma is always, coming into balance in whatever way it needs to, as long as we claim the journey, right? But we get to feel both. And so I think it's hard for people still to hear that. I remember when somebody told me that, it's like, well, you're going to get to feel everything, the highs and the lows. And I was like, no, just the highs, please. And like you were saying, I think maybe we hadn't even hit record yet, but you were saying earlier, it's like, how can we truly appreciate the highs if we don't know what the lows feel like? So I don't know, like I feel like I'm at 95% now after this recent upgrade, but at the same time, I feel like it's 1,000% better. Like I'm so grateful to have gone through that because now I'm really truly appreciating feeling good versus before, I hadn't gone through that yet. And yes, I've gone through things, but this was an upgrade to beat all upgrades. And so now I'm starting to feel that kind of momentum starting to build come where we're going to be coming into 2026, and we'll do a solstice, tune in video next for everybody in case anybody's wondering, because we definitely want to tune into those energies. But boy, it's the year of the horse, if that means anything to anybody. 2026 is the year of the horse, and it's a 10-year, and so it's ending and beginning, and horse is always a symbol of fast movement and momentum and just really going, finally moving forward. And so that's what's coming. But I mean, 2025 has definitely put us through the ringer, but again, we get to feel both. We get to feel both the highs and the lows. And so if you've been feeling a lot of the lows this year, join the club. We are right there with you. It has felt definitely maybe more low than high overall, but that's not, everything's temporary. We were just talking about this in Goddess Society. It's like, remember, everything is just moving you through to the next place. But the point is to enjoy it while you're there instead of constantly wanting to be in the next place, right? Like that's part of the human journey too. It's like we tend to like we that's why we created the numb society, right? Because oh no, we can't feel bad things. So how do we avoid feeling the bad things? Well, you don't engage. You just don't live at all. You don't travel, like you were saying, you don't leave your hometown, you don't ever leave your job. You just find something that works and you stay put. And
Hmm.
that's just not sustainable anymore. We're not in that reality anymore. But you may see people still playing out that paradigm in your life, and they're going to play it out to the end. But being aware of it is means that you're not plugged into that anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents on the.
I love it. And it reminded me of this movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I saw this movie about Barnum and Bailey, the Barnum and Bailey circus, and who knows like how factual the actual facts are, but the
Sure.
point of the movie was, and there always has been these people throughout history. And I feel like it's becoming more and more common that we see people that have a bigger vision. They're doing something different with their career, with their lives. They're not following the status quo, like we said, the numbed out, just get the best job you can for 45 years, stick it out, get the pension, blah, 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 right? Living for that future moment when you can reap the benefit of working 45 years. But then, like in the instance with your friend, he didn't even get there, right? Here he worked this job for 40 years, played it safe, whatever, never even got to. So it's like tomorrow's not even guaranteed. So it's like we really
Right.
have to enjoy the moment because we don't even know, right? So it's like I was just talking to Steve about this interestingly. We spend so much money, and I'm not saying I have a solution to this in the world or in society, pre preparing or you know preparing ourselves in the event that something might happen in the future. If you think about the concept of insurance, okay? So for your car, for your home, for your body, for your whatever, there's thousands of dollars. If you look at the percentage of your income that is spent on this, it's huge. The more assets you have, the more you're spending on insurance in the event that something might happen in the future. The same concept with working the 45-year job, playing it safe, doing all the things that you were told to do with your savings, blah, blah, blah. Circling back to Barnum. Sorry, I lost the thread on Barnum.
It's okay.
He was doing something different in a time where most people were plugged into numbing out, right? And he was like the story that you were saying of like you watch the people that have the high highs, the big lows. He lost all of his money at one point, right? He had a great
Hmm.
idea. And he wanted to, and in the story of the movie, I don't know what the real life story is, but he wanted to take people that were cast out of society for something that was really different about them. Like if you think of all the characters in the circus, the bearded lady,
Hmm. The
the
strong
little
man,
person,
the
right? Yeah, the
right,
little
yeah.
person, the strong, like all of those people that they couldn't get a job any other way, and he brought them all together and they created this beautiful show together.
Yeah. And a
Right.
family,
And
really,
and
if
that was his
you,
thing, and a family, and that's what they were showing, right? And so
right,
he was doing something different in the world, and he wanted to make a difference with people
right,
that were marginalized for whatever their thing was that their physical challenge was, right?
right.
And it was cool, like his story. But then like he lost his house, his wife, like so many tragic things happened to him because like the theater burned down, and
Right.
and it's like the story, like you said, but he was really living.
He
But
really
people
was.
looked at him and thought how terrible, how tragic his story is.
Right. Well,
And then
that
of
and
course it
they
has a happy ending, as they all do, right? Everybody,
like
it's
the
not the
movie
end if
does,
it's not the
sure,
happy ending, you
but
guys. Like then it's not the end. Like
then it's
that's the
not the
truth,
end.
right?
That is very
It's not the
true.
end, so keep
But then,
going.
people would look at him and other people like him too, right? And think, oh, well, that's what he gets for, taking the risk.
Yeah,
And so that's what would keep
exactly.
everybody else from taking the risks. And they all would think
Exactly.
all those people were viewed as crazy. And that's
Yeah.
why they make movies out of them now, right? Like that's
Hmm.
why that we hear the stories over and over again. I think it was The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest
Is that the
Showman.
movie?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I
Yes,
love
I
Hugh.
have
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's Barnum or Bailey. I think it's Barnum in my family line.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, somewhere. My mom's
So
told me
you've
about it
got that
years
risk
ago. I
taking.
have
You've
it
got the
somewhere in there.
blood.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's in the blood. So I really appreciated seeing the story of him, especially
Yeah.
because I've
It
been
is a
told
beautiful movie, and
for
it
some
doesn't even
distant relative.
matter how factual it was because it
Yeah.
really did showcase how, during a time where everybody was sitting in their homes and making sure they were satisfying the status quo and not stepping a toe out of line, he was
Hmm.
doing everything he could to not go into that place, right? He
Yeah.
knew that he couldn't exist in there. And he found his people. All the people who'd been, like you said, all the people who'd been cast out, he felt like one of them. That's
Hmm.
why he wanted to create that family. They weren't even allowed in society, right? Those people. And he didn't feel a part of society either. So he gathered them all together and created his own family, created his own soul family.
Yeah.
And the circus had
Great
its
story.
time, right? It was a beautiful spectacle for what it was when it was. And, it's not really a thing anymore because like we do, we take things and we make them, we commercialize them and we make them about profit and then it kind of loses that magic. But I love that movie too because it showcases how he really was trying to live against all odds. The entire world was against him. And
Hmm.
people watched him succeed and fail, and all they could see was the failure for their
Yeah.
applying to their own lives. So now it's time to take the risks. Like there's just no, because you look at like even just the smaller things that I've been through the last 12, 13 years since I had my initial awakening. I walked away from a 30-year marriage. I've had a lot of growth go on with the relationships with my children. I've had to let go of other family members and really close friends that I thought were going to be in my life forever, right? And I have not only survived these things, I am better than ever and I am thriving. And so we really have to get to that place where we see that those situations are not only necessary and inevitable if you really truly want to live, but they're also beautiful, just as beautiful as the highs. It's how
Yeah.
we get there, right? It's the vehicle.
Yeah.
And the
And
horse, the
and some
year
of
the
you out there
horse is
might be
coming.
asking like, well, how do I step into like truly living? And really it starts with you have to listen to your calling. Like what are you being called to do? And a lot of times we dismiss our calling because this is what we're
Mm-hmm.
taught to numb
Because it
out.
seems crazy,
Our
right?
calling is going
Yeah.
to take you, yeah, your ego is going to keep you from your calling because your calling is going to take you on a trajectory of truly living, which is so scary for the ego. The ego would much prefer you do the 45 years, keep everything the same,
Yep.
keep everything safe.
Never
But
travel, never change your friend
yeah,
group,
that's
never,
not
yeah.
where the growth is for you. Never change the friend group. Exactly. So listen to your calling. What are you being called to do that you're in resistance to? Is it to open that flower shop? Is it to join that
Yeah.
group? Is it to hire that coach? Is it to start that business? Is it
Invest in
to
yourself in some way.
invest in something, right? Invest in yourself. Maybe it is just an actual classic investment. Maybe you've been like, no, no, no,
Sure.
it's too risky, whatever.
Or
But
I don't
listen,
have
because
the
there's
money,
something there
right?
for
But
you. That's
yeah.
right. And that's a story that a lot of people tell themselves. And is that true? Not always. I can't even tell you how many people have joined Goddess Society and found money that they didn't even know they had, and you're one of them,
Mm-hmm.
that suddenly found money, a pile of money that was just sitting there from who knows, years ago, but they truly manifested it. In the moment, it doesn't matter. Time doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
exist.
When you
So
invest in
it
yourself,
didn't matter,
it
right?
shows up. It
So
didn't
they'll just
matter.
say, "Oh my gosh, I remember it happened with you," and then someone right after you said, "Holy cow, I was about to sell my house and then I got $50,000 the next day." And she had just joined Goddess Society like a week before.
Mm-hmm.
This happens all the time. and I'm doing air quotes here, this found money that just suddenly appears, but that it has to drop in a believable way in our lives, right? So it's like you have to believe, okay, I put this away this many years ago. Whether you did or not is irrelevant. It
Right.
has to come to you through a way that you can accept and believe.
Yeah.
So it happens all the time.
Even if it's
So
a
these are the
estranged
things. So
uncle that
so if you're exactly,
that
now
dies
you're like,
and yeah.
who is this person? Yeah. So the point is, listen to your calling and don't take your current circumstances as the be all end all for following your calling.
Hmm.
There's so many ways to do something. There's investors, there's people that you can,
It's
like you said,
collaboration.
yes, collaboration. There's so many ways things can happen. So yeah, you're right. Take the risk. I think that's where we should wrap this. I think
Hmm.
the whole theme of this was it's time to be truly alive, and that includes taking risks.
Yeah, and embracing the highs and the lows, embracing the
Yeah,
successes and the
and live
failures. It's
in the
all getting
moment.
you to where you want to go and letting go of what other people are saying about you, behind closed doors or whatever. What do they say? What other people's opinions of you are none of your business. And the people who have not chosen growth are going to judge you. I told my son the other day, I said, whether you do what you want or you do what other people tell you to do, somebody's going to be mad about it. So you might as well do what you want
Yeah,
and take the
exactly.
take the leaps. So I do think, yeah, and I can't wait to get into the energy of December and into 2026 because I think we're going to see a lot of leaps of faith energy and people just going for it, and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll put that one out around the solstice, giving you a forecast for 2026. That'll be our next episode.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye, goddess.
Bye, goddess.